Hi, everyone, and welcome along to the Ergonomically Speaking podcast, the podcast that aims to help you reduce and even eliminate work related discomfort. I am your host, Neve Pentney of Boyne Ergonomics. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope that you're able to take away some useful practical advice from this podcast to help you reduce your own risk of discomfort at the workplace or help manage the risks among the people that you might be responsible for. So now that we know why we're here, let's get started. Hello, and welcome along to another episode of the Ergonomically Speaking podcast with myself, Neve Pentney of Boyne Ergonomics. Welcome to 2025. I'm recording this episode at the start of January. I really hope everyone had a really peaceful and a really restful Christmas and New Year break. Whatever these holidays look like to you, I hope you got the most out of them and whatever you wanted out of them. We're diving straight into New Year, looking at New Year better posture. So this episode is going to focus all about DSE computer workstation posture. So we're going to have a look at why posture is important. What are the common poor postures that we tend to see when people work at a computer? And what are the negative effects of these kind of postures? And then we'll have a look at essentially what constitutes a good or what we call a neutral posture at the workstation and some tips to help you maintain those positions. So let's start off by looking at what is posture and why do I harp on about it so much? When I'm talking about posture, what I really mean is alignment. It's the body's alignment and positioning relative to gravity. So in any posture, in any position, gravity is exerting forces on the musculoskeletal system. So when we adopt what we call the good or the neutral postures, the force of gravity is distributed appropriately. So there's no excessive stress or strain being placed on any one joint or any one muscle group, any one tissue. And in these postures, the body is at its most efficient. There's reduced fatigue, reduced strain, and the internal system, so your respiratory system, your circulatory system, and your digestive system are working as they should because they're not under any pressure. When we adopt bad or adverse postures, which is the term I use, there will be excessive strain placed on a particular tissue or a joint or a muscle group. Some muscle groups will have to work harder to try and hold that position, and the body's going to become inefficient, and the internal systems start to experience a slight reduction in functionality. This is what I'm looking for. So when we're doing DSE assessments or when we're doing ergonomic risk assessments, one of the things we're looking for is what is this person's working posture? And I'm trying to identify postures that are putting excessive strain, stress, fatigue on particular joints, tissues, parts of the body, and try to see, can we associate that with the discomfort that they're feeling or the issues that they're having? And hopefully by correcting it, we're reducing the discomfort and the symptoms. So posture is a big part of what we do and a big part of what we look at and what we try and correct. What are the impacts? So if you are working at a computer workstation and your posture is not optimized, what impact could that have on you? And this is something we see a lot. Look, I'm in this area a long time, and even before COVID, most of the time when you're into an assessment, you'd make a little correction or two. Very few people have perfect posture. God, even ergonomists don't have perfect posture. But definitely in the last, nearly 5 years, with the move to home working, there was a massive jump in poor adverse postures and the amount of time these poor adverse postures were being held for. No one posture, I'm going to say this, excuse me, will have a negative impact if it's held for a short period or if it's infrequently. That's not going to be a problem. Our bodies are supposed to move in all different kinds of ways to do all different kinds of things. The issues arise, though, when adverse postures are being held for a long time. They are common and frequent postures, and you're not giving yourself a break. So the prolonged duration and the high frequency increases the risk of discomfort and injury because of the stress and strain being placed on parts of the body. So these postures can have a negative short-term and a long-term impact on the musculoskeletal system, but also digestive system, respiratory system, and the circulatory system, as well as your own psychological well-being. So if we have a quick look first at the impact on the musculoskeletal system. So one of the most common adverse postures I see is at the moment, it's the leaning forward and it's the looking down at the screen, looking down at the keyboard, looking down at the phone. So this kind of forward leaning and looking down posture causes the weight of the head to be supported by an increased muscular effort. So in your ideal position, your ear is over your shoulder, your head's balanced on top of your spine. And while that will take obviously muscular effort to keep it there, it's within the limits of what it's supposed to do. Once you start looking down, 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 your head's leaning forward. So all of a sudden, gravity is going to start to pull that head down. So gravity's going to want your head to come down even lower. But your neck and shoulder muscles are going to go, hang on, I don't want to lean that far forward. So they're going to have to work to keep your head and your upper body in the position that you want it to be in, which may not necessarily be the position that gravity wants it to be in. And it's not in its optimal position. So you're stuck in this kind of limbo area where the muscles are working really, really hard to hold them in position. And that can cause strain, fatigue, can stretch the ligaments in the joints, and can put a lot of pressure on the musculoskeletal system. Rounding of the upper and the lower back also causes abnormal compression of the discs. So if you're leaning forward and you're kind of hunched all the time or for long periods, that's going to pull your spine out of its natural S shape. Remember, the spine, as I said many times, is not straight. It is supposed to be curved, but curved in the right places, in the right direction. So if you have a really extreme rounding of the upper back and the lower back, that's going to cause abnormal compression of the discs. So you're going to have excessive wear and tear on these discs, which, as we know, the discs don't have blood supply. They won't heal. You really have to protect them. And it can also, over time, cause a little misalignment of the spine. If you have these forces being applied over and over again for prolonged periods, well, things are going to shift out of balance. And this will all lead to neck, shoulder, upper back, lower back, hip pain, going down into the elbows, the wrists, the fingers, the knees, the feet. If your musculoskeletal system becomes damaged, it's going to cause you pain and discomfort. Now, thankfully, a lot of the time, the damage is reversible. Once you identify the cause and get your treatment and whatever it may be, you can usually, for the most part, reverse it. But it will take time, and it will usually take longer than it caused for the issue to develop in the first place. It's really important that we protect our musculoskeletal system. The impact on the digestive system. Again, my mind always goes to this leaning forward laptop position, rounded shoulders and back. Compress the organs of your digestive system. So if you're here listening to this now, think about where your stomach is. Think about where your intestines are. So if you're upright, they're all in there fine. They have the space to do whatever they need to do to move your food around, digest it, do all that stuff. And even think of, the esophagus going down into the stomach. As you lean forward, which I just did there, you compress your abdomen. So you're going to lessen the space that's available for your digestive system, your stomach, your intestines to do their job. You're also going to reduce the blood flow to them. So this is going to reduce your digestive function, increasing the likelihood that you're going to get acid reflux, constipation, indigestion, and heartburn, that kind of thing. And that is definitely something I noticed in early COVID times when everyone only had laptops, nobody had screens, nobody had keyboards. A lot of people, and they put it down to stress as well of the whole situation. But we're getting indigestion, we're getting cramps, we're getting heartburn. And a lot of it was to do with the compression on the digestive system. So posture is really important to keep your digestive system functioning properly. Next, we'll have a look at the respiratory system. So again, forward leaning, rounded shoulders, rounded back is going to cause the muscles in your chest to tighten. It's going to limit how much your rib cage expands when you're breathing. And it's going to prevent your diaphragm from opening fully. So if you are now here, listen to this. Sit or stand upright, not straight, just upright, ear over shoulder over hip. And inhale and exhale. You should, if you put your hands on your ribs, when you inhale through your nose, you should feel your ribs expand outward. And then as you exhale, they contract inward. That movement is supposed to happen. That's how that system functions. If you are leaning forward, if you're tight, if your shoulders are rounded, you cannot get that movement, which is going to result in a more shallow breathing pattern because the air can't get down into your lungs because you're not expanding those lungs. And in turn, slightly more rapid breathing pattern. So you're not in a relaxed breathing pattern. You're in a more rapid, more shallow breathing pattern. This is going to have two impacts. One, it's going to activate your nervous system. Your body's going to think you're under stress. Even if you're not, your body's going to go into a state of stress because of this breathing pattern. It's going to release all the hormones. They'll have a big knock-on effect too. So your fight or flight, your stress hormones are going to be released, but you're not in the appropriate situation for them. You don't actually need them. They're also going to put strain on your primary breathing muscles. So when these muscles get tired, well, your body's just going to respond by recruiting other muscles to help with breathing. And this is usually the neck. So the neck has enough to be doing, holding your head and facilitating the movement of that. And then all of a sudden you're recruiting the neck muscles to try and help you with breathing. So they're going to become overworked and tired, and you're going to get sore neck, sore shoulders, headaches, and migraines. And if we have a look at the effect on the circulatory system, posture can have two modes of impacting the circulatory system. One is adverse postures, which will reduce blood flow to the muscles and internal organs because vessels are compressed, muscles are tense and tight. So the blood can't flow as freely as it should. That'll put increased pressure on the veins, especially in the legs, which can damage them and cause varicose veins. The other thing to consider, and I know a lot of people don't think of this, is when you're static, if you are maintaining, in particular, a seated posture for a long time, your blood is still flowing normally, like your heart's pumping away, but your body won't have the help of your big muscle groups, your legs, your glutes, that help encourage that blood flow day to day as you're walking around doing your different things. So when you're static, those muscle groups are not pumping. They're not helping at all with the circulatory system. And that can have a little impact in how effectively the waste products that build up in your muscles can be removed. So that can contribute to the feelings of stress, fatigue, aches, pains that you feel in the muscles. It's actually sometimes not helped because your circulatory system has slowed down. So the waste products are not being removed as effectively as they should, and the oxygen and fuel is not being brought to the muscles as effectively as it should. And that can also be impeded by excessive contact stress. So one of the usual indicators to us when we're doing an assessment that somebody's posture is not quite right is that we'll notice areas of contact stress. So be it on the forearms, be it on the wrists, or a big one is on the underside of your thighs when you're sitting in your chair. And if you don't have the appropriate support underfoot, be it from the floor, be it from a footrest, that can put a lot of pressure on the underside of your thighs, which can impact the blood flow into your legs. Some people often report to me feelings like their feet aren't sore, but they feel a little tingly and like they're going to fall asleep. And that's usually a big sign that circulation is actually being impacted by the poor posture. So something to be aware of. It has also been found that poor postures can have an impact on your sleep. And we don't like anything that has an impact on our sleep. So adverse postures can increase tension in the muscles, making it difficult to relax the body at night. muscular pain and discomfort, those aches and pains can make it hard to get into a comfortable position and increase how much you wake at night. And this is going to, of course, affect how much sleep you get and how good the sleep you get actually is. So you do need to have an appropriate level of sleep for yourself, and that can vary from person to person. Some people are absolutely fine on 7 to 8 hours. Some people need 9 to 10, but you need good quality sleep. That's the key. It's not that you're in bed for that amount of time, that you're asleep for that amount of time. So anything that's going to help improve our sleep is always a plus. So be aware that these poor postures, we're not just looking at it to prevent aches and pains. We're looking at it from a holistic point of view to hopefully have a positive impact on your sleep and also your mood. So one of the negative impacts mentioned, like musculoskeletal pain, impact on sleep, impact on your digestive system, impact on your respiratory system, impact on your circulatory system. They can all contribute to our mood. So if you have a sore back, if your shoulders are aching, if you're not getting great sleep, if your tummy's not the best, if you're getting indigestion, if you're getting constipated, if you are feeling fatigued, it's just going to have such an impact on your mood and your well-being. And as we mentioned, adverse postures can also have an impact on the nervous system. So compression of the nerves, fight or flight, stress response caused by shallow breathing, these all have massive impacts on your emotional and psychological well-being. So just as these negative impacts can have a huge effect on the body, neutral and supported postures can have a massively positive effect and can help prevent some of these problems. So what is the ideal or the optimum computer workstation posture? Now, I am going to preface this a little bit. Sometimes, based on the equipment that you're using and the job that you're doing, there might be slight variations to this. This is a general overview. So, most people start at the bottom with the feet. I'm going to start with your elbows. So, when I'm working with somebody and we're trying to identify what might be the problem, I usually start at the elbows. So, when you are working, you're using your keyboard and using your mouse, your elbows should be level with the desk surface when your shoulders are relaxed. And that's the key piece. When I often say to people, are your elbows level? Oh, yeah, they are, no problem. And I can see the shoulders up around their ears. Okay, so what you do is sit back in your chair, pull yourself nice and close to your desk, hands on the table, just in front of you. Make sure your upper arms are by your side. Have those shoulders nice and relaxed. Just rest the hands on the table. Inhale, exhale, and relax the shoulders. When you do that exhale, that relax, your elbow should be level with the surface of the table or even slightly over it. If it's dropping under, that is going to cause you to tense your shoulders, wing your elbows out to the side, lean forward in your chair, adopt all these different kind of postures that we see. That's your body's way of essentially compensating for this incorrect seated height for the desk. That is when you're using a standard keyboard and mouse. If you use ergonomic devices that are higher off the table, if you use, for example, foam rest, keyboard rest, that kind of thing that are slightly elevated off the table, I would try and get my elbow position actually as close to level with those rests, those pads as you can, just to be nice and comfortable. So once you know your elbows are level, well, then we can build from there. So the next place to go is when your elbows are level, if you've made any adjustment, check in with your feet now. Now check your base. Do your feet comfortably reach the floor? Because we want them to. If they don't, and that happens to me all the time, I've told you before, I'm very vertically challenged. Most fixed height desks are too high for me. So when I bring my chair, that my elbows are level, my feet don't reach the floor, but that's okay. You just get a footrest if you need one. You don't? That's great. You got your stable base. Make sure there's not too much pressure from the chair on the back of your thighs. If there is, you might still need a footrest just to alleviate that pressure. So feet stable on the floor or the footrest, elbows level. Now, is your lower back supported? Because it should be. Whatever chair you're using, when you sit back, you should feel support in the curve of your lower back, not your tailbone, which is where I see a lot of people putting it for some reason. Where your spine curves in, you need to have support, be it from the chair, be it from a cushion, be it from a foam back support, whatever it needs to be for you. Support in your lower back is really important. Sit upright. So your feet are planted, your elbows are level, your lower back is supported. Sit upright, not straight. Remember, spine is not straight. I don't want you sitting like to attention, military style. Just upright. Ear over shoulder, over hip. Chest open. Don't let those shoulders curl in. Keep that chest nice and open to help maintain a good oxygen intake. And screens. Make sure you are looking straight ahead. Now, the screen height to allow you to look straight ahead will vary if you wear glasses like varifocals or bifocals versus somebody who wears no glasses or wears single vision lenses. That actual distance from the table to the screen will be slightly different. But as long as you can sit back in that chair, shoulders relaxed, chest open, and look straight ahead at your screens, that is the most neutral you can be at a workstation when you're using the keyboard and mouse. Keep your keyboard and mouse close to you. You shouldn't have to reach for them. You should be able to reach them very comfortably sitting back in your chair. If you have to lean forward or stretch those arms out in front of you to use your keyboard and mouse, they're too far away. Make changes. Pull yourself in. Sit back. Change the angle of your chair or stuff the chair with cushions behind you if you have to. Whatever you need to do to get that upright but relaxed position. You don't want the muscles doing any more work than they have to do. That for me is the default position. In that position, your feet should be on the floor or a footrest. If your elbows are level with your table, you should find that your hips and knees are either level with each other or the hip might be slightly higher than the knee. Now, if you're listening to this and you were like 6'4", 6'5", and you're using a standard desk, you may find that when you have your elbows level with the table, yes, your feet are on the floor, but your knees are coming up and hitting the table, or your knees are up higher than your hips. That's because the table's not tall enough for you. The table needs to be higher. Your ideal seated position, feet on the floor, the footrest, hips and knees level or hips slightly over knees, whatever's comfortable. Elbows level with the table, sitting upright, ear over shoulder, over hip, looking ahead at your screens. That should feel comfortable. That is the position I recommend. And if you're standing, we want you, again, elbows level with your devices, with the table, looking straight ahead and being upright, ear over shoulder, over hip, over ankle. Not ramrod straight, but just upright. Those are the working positions if you're using your keyboard and mouse. However, I will, little tip here, if you have an adjustable desk and you do a lot of Teams meetings, that position is often too low if you're not using the keyboard and mouse. Most people tend to lean on the table during Teams calls and round themselves down on it. If you can and you have an adjustable desk, I would recommend, if you're not going to be using the keyboard and mouse for a little while and you're just in a meeting, cross your arms, cross your chest, relax the shoulder, and bring the table up higher so it meets your elbow. So it means you can rest your body on the table a little bit, but still keep your back upright. And how can we encourage these positions? Well, the first thing is make sure your workstation is set up as best as it can to encourage these postures. So if you need something to put your feet on, get something to put your feet on. If you need something to support your back, get something to support your back. Elevate your screens to the right position. Make it as easy as possible to achieve these positions. Take regular breaks. This is I bore people with about how much I talk about this. You have to leave your desk. The best chair, the best screens, the best table, keyboard, mouse. It's not going to prevent much if you are sitting there for hours at a time. You have to move. And I don't mean going from sitting to standing and sitting to standing. you need to leave your desk. Everyone should be leaving the desk about once every 45 minutes, even for 1 or 2 minutes. Grab a glass of water, come back, pace around the room if you're on a call, whatever it needs to be that works around your job. But you do need to leave your desk about every 45 minutes just to give your musculoskeletal system a break, boost your circulation, and give your eyes a bit of a break from the screen. Use video calls or use phone calls as an opportunity to change position. They can be really, really handy. And outside of work, exercise, hobbies or classes that help keep the body healthy. So, aerobic exercise, and in particular, Pilates, weights will help improve muscle tone, will help naturally improve posture in a way that you're not really aware of and you're not thinking about it. It just tends to happen naturally because the muscles are all toned and they're functioning correctly and they're balanced, importantly. So, those are a few little things to think about as we start the new year. We want to start it right, get the posture right, get the positioning right, and start from there. Take your breaks to give your muscles a chance to recover. And that's a good start from there. So I leave it there. As always, in the show notes, there'll be a link to the blog for this episode which has images if you want to see them, if images work for you. All my social media details will be in the show notes if you want to give me a follow. See, I post online quite regularly. Reach out to me at any time if there's a topic that you want me to cover. And until the next time, everybody, stay well.